I see, by the way, that Elon Musk is now saying on Twitter that he wants to buy Coca-Cola so he can put the cocaine back into it.
Oh, my gosh, that guy's such a disruptor.
He really is.
To see the establishment media and the left wing, their hair on fire, just go completely mental. Look, let's be clear here. This guy isn't, I grew up under Maggie Thatcher. I consider myself a traditional conservative. This guy, he's not a conservative. He leans, libertarian maybe. He's got some questionable business relations with China. But the fact that everybody on the left, the crazies, the Washington Post types, CNN, the Democrats, hate this guy because he wants more freedom of speech on Twitter. It's just delicious to watch.
Oh, it really is. And also the idea that all these critics are saying, oh, this is going to be the revisiting of hate speech, and people are going to be bullied online and harassed, and they're going to be pylons. And it's like, what do you think is happening now on Twitter? It happens. It's been happening. If you have a right-wing view, you are bullied, you're harassed, you have people piling on you, telling you that you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're a horrible individual, you're cruel. I mean, even the old Archbishop of Canterbury here has told people, if you vote Tory, you're a Satanist.
Yeah, it is a cesspit, and if you're a conservative, if you dare say crazy things, really, racist, bigoted things like a man is a man and chromosomes...
Yeah, shocking.
That you are the worst of the worst. But it's fascinating, all this, alleged distortion in favor of conservatives. In the last 72 hours, since the deal was confirmed, people like myself, Donald Trump's son, who's still on Twitter, we have seen massive, and I mean massive, increases in followers, in interaction, in likes, which means somebody's very busy shredding and getting rid of evidence in Palo Alto at Twitter headquarters, because they're worried that there's a new boss who has actually said this already. This is the first test I said. If he does this guy's serious. He has already said in a tweet, I am going to make the mystical algorithms open source.
Yes.
So behind the curtain as to whether or not they're censoring you, and everybody should celebrate that.
No, listen, I've often been very puzzled by some of the things that happen on Twitter. I mean, I've got a very small number of fans, followers compared to you, but I, for example, never see Julia Hartley-Brewer's tweets. I have to go and look for them. They never appear in my timeline. I follow her, I tweet her quite a lot, so you would think that any algorithm would put us in the same box, but apparently not. And in the same way as lots of other, I never see your tweets. I have to go looking for your tweets before you come on to see what you've been saying, to see what you've been talking about. And I was fascinated, actually, by a retweet that you'd made of Dave Rubin talking to Elon Musk directly, saying, have a look at some of these organisations like the New York Times, who claim to have 50-odd million followers, but who rarely get very much interaction.
Yeah, who get maybe, 20 or 30 likes.
Yeah.
Got tens of millions. How does that work? And how do I've got 1.2 million followers, and an average tweet of mine gets 300 likes. That's a bit weird, Mike, isn't it?
Well, you would have thought so, yeah, absolutely. So there are many sort of mystical things that we will find out with Elon Musk. And, I mean, Donald Trump has said that he probably will not go back onto Twitter because he wants to carry on with his own version of it. I think he might change his mind on that.
Well, this is what I predict. So he's got to say that right now because he just got a huge investment, hundreds of millions of dollars to create Truth Social, where you the real end. If you go to Truth Social, his Twitter platform, the interactions with followers is incomparable. It really works. There is no shadow banning, as it is called. But so he's got to stick with that for a while. And here's my prediction. He must not go back until two things occur. Elon really cleans it up. We see the man behind the curtain. The algorithms are revealed, and he only comes back if he is given back his account with all 93 million followers. And if that happens, he's going to have to go back because it's a midterm election year for the Congress in November. And then before he runs, which he is going to do in 2024, he needs to at least have a Trump campaign mirror site on Twitter. So I think he'll be back, but it'll take at least a year.
Yeah, absolutely right. And we were talking to a couple of guests earlier on in the day about the way that Europe is kind of tearing itself up into bits about its conversations with Ukraine and with Russia. You know, the Germans, who we said last week, quite as was pointed out to Donald Trump. Actually, one of the things I loved about his interview with Piers was when he said he sent a white flag to Angela Merkel and said, you know, you're too reliant reliant on the Russians. And he was right again. And they're still giving €1 billion a day to Moscow.
Yeah, look, when Gerhard Schröder, her predecessor, what was it, 15 years ago, 20 years, when Gerhard Schröder, the Chancellor of Germany, leaves the Chancellery and then becomes the CEO of Gazprom in Russia, come on, guys. I mean, you're not just in bed with Russia, with Moscow. You're trying all kinds of lovely positions with them as well. And the fact that now Poland, one of the staunchest, toughest new members of NATO, that knew what it's like to live for decades under the boot of the Moscow regime under communism, is having its gas cut off. Look, it's just common sense. Or, look, President Trump is not a geopolitician who's going to quote to you theories of international relations. He's a pragmatist who's built an empire over 50 years. And he says, hang on a second, that guy's a KGB colonel. He's a bad guy. He kills people. And you're buying more energy from him? That's nuts. And it's just plain common sense.
It really is. You must be slightly conflicted, though, Sebastian, about the Hungarian situation, because the Hungarians are kind of in NATO and yet are not condemning the Russians and are still, I think I'm right in saying, offering to pay for the Russian gas in rubles.
Yeah, well, that's a longer discussion. Back in the 90s, I was actually an advisor to Orban, who was then the leader of a small 7% opposition party. Now he looks the prime minister for life. But look, I don't want to make excuses for him because there's serious issues with that regime and also with corruption. But you've got to think, Hungary is a tiny landlocked country. It relies almost 50% of its energy comes from outside. And on top of that, there is a sizable Hungarian ethnic minority in Ukraine. So he's walking a tightrope right now.